Hello bookish people, welcome back to my channel. My name is Megan. In today's video we are doing my July wrap-up. These are all the books I read in the month of July. July was honestly one of my best reading months I've ever had in my entire life. In terms of quantity and quality, I read 21 books, which is the most I've ever read. And on top of that, a lot of the books I read were 4 and 5 stars. I enjoyed so many of the books that I read. It was an amazing month, like a really great quality of books. And yes, so best month ever. But let's get into the video because I have a lot of books to review. But before we do that, subscribe down below and hit the like button on this video, and then we can continue. So the first book I read this month is The Hacienda by Isabella Cañas. This was my May book of the month pick, and I was waiting for the audiobook to come in through my Libby app, and I got off hold. I read this book. I didn't really like it that much, to be honest. It says Mexican Gothic meets Rebecca. So if you like Mexican Gothic vibes, like that's like the aesthetic you like and the books that you like, you'll probably like this. I personally didn't. I didn't know what Gothic literature meant. Like I feel like everyone on booktube is like, oh, this is like a Gothic story or this or that. It's Gothic literature. I have no idea what that means. But if this is any indication, it's not for me. It's not my aesthetic. I don't vibe with it. It was okay. Like I'm not saying it was a terrible book. Objectively, I would say this book was like a 3-star book, but I would say my listening experience to it, like I would say my reading experience with the book was like a 2.5 stars just because I didn't gel with the story, but I rated it 3 because again, objectively, I feel like it's a good book. So basically we're following our main character Beatrice, and she marries a guy named Rodolfo who's like this like rich person, and then also there's like a lot of like political drama going on in the beginning of the book, like her father's murdered and her mother basically have nowhere to go, so she marries this guy for financial security and financial stability, and she goes and she lives on his plantation, the hacienda, and while he goes back to the city to do like business while she stays in the country on their like plantation. I don't know if it's really a plantation. It's the hacienda. The hacienda is like the Spanish translation for this is like plantation or estate or something like that, like, you know, like ranch, like big piece of property in the country. Okay, so while she's there alone, she's with like the servants, and also his sister lives there, and there's like a lot of spooky stuff happening and just like a lot of stuff going down. There's this like weird relationship she has with like a witch priest. I don't know. The book was weird. I didn't vibe with it. I honestly found it to be quite boring, and I rated it 3 stars. The next 2 books I read, I don't have on me physically because I read them through my library app. I listened to the audiobooks, and that is Finlay, Donovan is Killing It and Finlay, Donovan Knocks Him Dead. This is the first and second book in the Finlay Donovan series by El Casameo. So the first book, Finlay Donovan, we'll go over the synopsis for that because I don't want to spoil you guys, you know, by talking about the second book. So this book follows Finlay, and she is recently divorced. Her husband cheated on her, and she's just trying to make ends meet. She's a writer, and she meets her agent at Panera, and she's telling her the synopsis for the book she wants to write, which is a murder mystery book. So she's describing this murder, and this lady overhears her talking and thinks that Finlay is a hit woman. So she leaves a note in her purse basically saying, if you will kill my husband, I will give you $50,000. And Finlay is like, I need some money. Let me just go investigate this man, see if he's worth murdering. And then chaos and crime ensues for there. It's just like all chaos. It's a very chaotic book. It is so funny, and it's just, I love this series so much. The second book is just as good as the first book. I rated both of them 5 stars. I highly recommend them. I definitely recommend the audiobooks. I think the narrator did a really good job, and it also helps with the comedy element to it to hear people really like acting out what's going on. And it was just amazing. I am so happy that I read both of these books. These books have been on my radar for a while, and I just never like gave into the hype and read them, but I finally did it, and I am so happy I did. Highly recommend. The third one's coming out in 2023. I cannot wait for that. And this whole series really reminds me of like Dial A for Aunties. Like I feel like if you love Dial A for Aunties and 4 Aunties in a Wedding, you're gonna love these books here. The next 3 books I read were the Seminist novellas from Ali Hazelwood. These are just like a trilogy of novellas following 3 best friends, Mara, Sadie, and Hannah, and it's just about them finding love. So the first one follows Mara and Liam. I read them all in order. So yeah, the first one follows Mara and Liam, and Mara is a climate scientist and Liam is a big oil lawyer, and they end up living in the same house and being roommates because Mara's mentor passed away, and she left Mara her house to live in, and also she left the house to Liam, her nephew, the big oil lawyer. So obviously you have a climate scientist and a big oil lawyer, so they're obviously gonna butt heads. It is such a cute story. I love this so much. I love the like stuck under one. I love that trope of like the forced like proximity, forced living together. Like, oh, it's so good. And these 2 characters, I feel like they had so much chemistry together. I just absolutely like ate up this story. I loved it so much. I rated it 4 stars. So when you're like, if you loved it so much, why are you rating it 4 stars? It's 4 stars because it's a novella. Like, I wish that this was a full-blown book. Like, I wish this was a normal novel and I could get more with them because everything happens so quickly, but it's because it's not very long. It's a novella. I think the audiobook is like 4 hours. So I felt like I wanted the story to be more fleshed out and I wanted to get more into like everything. Like, I just wanted to read more. So that is why it's a 4-star and not a 5-star, because it kind of sucks that it's a novella. The next book in the novella trilogy is Stuck on You. Stuck with You. Stuck with You. I don't know why. I always say the title wrong. So Stuck with You, this one follows Sadie and Eric. So Sadie and Eric, they went on a date in the past and it didn't end well. And then they get stuck in an elevator together. So basically the story is them being trapped in the elevator together, and they're also going back into the past and like you're also reading about the date that happened and where it went wrong and why it ended badly. And it's just kind of like that. That's the love story. I didn't really like this one as much. There's just like something that happens in the book. Like the reason why things didn't go well, I just didn't like that. So basically, we're getting into spoilers, whatever. So she freaks out when they're having sex because she's like, oh my God, he's so big and I'm so small. And like, it like freaks her out and she just like freaks out. And then she's like, okay, I gotta go. And then he feels like he did something wrong, but she's like, no, it's just like freaked out momentarily. And like that whole situation, it just felt so like awkward and weird. I just didn't like it. I just did not like that at all. I just gave it 3 stars because everything else I liked about it except for that part. So it was a 3-star book. I'm happy this one was a novella and not an actual novel. So you know what? Yeah, 3 stars. And this one was my least favorite out of all 3, but it was still like a good time if you listen to it from your library. The next book in the trilogy and the last book in the trilogy is Below Zero, and this one follows Hannah and Ian. So Hannah is a scientist, obviously, and she wants to go on this expedition, so she like has to get it approved by her company. And Ian has some superiority or whatever. I don't remember fully because like I read a lot. I don't fully remember. Okay, he had some superiority where he was able to like veto it and be like, no, you can't do that. But then someone else ended up giving her permission to go on this expedition. During that expedition, she gets injured and Ian comes to rescue her. And that's what the book is about. I really enjoyed this one a lot as well. I thought it was a really good time. I love the 2 characters and just everything about the story and how he comes and rescues her. It's also cute. It's also amazing. I rated it 4 stars. The next book I read is The Duke and I, which is the first book in the Bridgerton series. So this book follows Daphne and Simon, and basically he is a duke and she is being courted by, you know, different people. Like her mom wants her to get married, so they enter a fake courtship together because he doesn't want to get married. So he feels like if, you know, he's fake dating her, women will leave him alone. And when she dates him, she's getting more guys like coming after her, like they want her. So she's like, okay, this is perfect because I need to find someone to actually date. So they enter this fake courtship and then they fall in love. And I like this book a lot. I actually really did enjoy this book until we get to the end conflict, like the big conflict of the story, the big conflict of their love story. Daphne like does something that I felt was so irredeemable and I didn't think she could come back for it, and then I really didn't like the ending. So that's as vague as I can be, but I'm gonna get into spoilers now. So basically, here's the spoilers for all of it. Simon doesn't want kids, and then Daphne does want kids. So one night when he gets really drunk, they have sex and she's sober and he wants to pull out and she like doesn't let him pull out. So like she forces him to like come inside of her so that she can have kids, and she never ends up getting pregnant from that. But to me that was so fucked up. It's like, what are you doing? How is that's rape? Like, what are you doing? Like, he doesn't want to and you're doing that. It's literally sexual assault. And I just like didn't enjoy that. And I didn't enjoy how it was like she was redeemed after that. And then also in the end, in the epilogue, they have kids and they have like multiple kids. And it's like, he didn't want kids. Can't we just leave it at that? Can't we have like a couple who doesn't have kids? Why does it have to be like, oh, you don't have kids, but oh, you've changed your ways? Like, no, some people just don't want kids and they should be happy and be able to just not have kids. Other than that, I would have rated it 4 stars if it wasn't for that part of the book. And if it wasn't for the ending, I would have rated it 4 stars because I really enjoyed it. I'm definitely going to continue on the series. So hopefully their future books aren't as problematic as this one. But yeah, overall I enjoyed it, but I didn't even watch the TV show. Hopefully they took that part out of it because so unnecessary. Like, why? There's so many conflicts they could have had. Why was it that? The next book I read is Where the Crawdad Sings by Delia Owens. On my own, I never thought to pick this up. I actually read the synopsis and was like, no, this sounds boring. And then I do pick it up because of TikTok, and then I fell in love with it and give it 5 stars. So basically, I just can't trust myself when it comes to like what I actually want to read, because apparently I passed on something that I absolutely loved. So this book, we're following Kaya, and she basically raises herself in the marsh because she was like abandoned by her family. She has a lot of family issues. They all end up leaving, and she just lives in this shack in the marsh by herself, raises herself, doesn't go to school. And it's about her in the past, basically how a coming of age story, her from very young to like growing into adult, seeing what her life was like. And then we're also have chapters in present day, like you're kind of alternating timelines. So then in present day, there's somebody who was found murdered in the marsh, and they suspect that she killed him. So it's about them doing the investigation and then them going through the court trial and trying to prosecute her. Again, not something that sounds up my alley, but I thought it was an amazing book. I rated it 5 stars. I highly recommend. And if you are going to get a copy of it, you could definitely I know the author is kind of like controversial, and she's like kind of problematic. They're under investigation for murder or something that's very like closely related to the plot of this book. So if you don't feel comfortable supporting her, like do what I did. You get this at the thrift store or buy it on eBay from some eBay seller, because this book was so popular. You could definitely find it really cheap on eBay anyway if you don't want to like support her. So yeah, there's this. Highly recommend, but I recommend buying it secondhand. The next book I read is The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. This was a romance novel. I love this book so much. This one I rated 5 stars. First of all, the cover is so cute. I love the flowers, and I love the spine of this book and all the flowers too. Oh my god, book of the month never goes wrong for romances. Every single romance that I have ordered from book of the month, I end up loving and like giving 5 stars. So I trust them. The romance team, the one who picks the romances at book of the month, like praise to you, like you do an awesome job. I love this book so much. So we're following Hannah and Jack. First of all, Jack's name is Jack Stapleton, which I don't know why. I just love that. That's such a celebrity sounding name. And well, he is a celebrity, but like I just love it. So we have Hannah, who is a bodyguard, and she is assigned to be the bodyguard for Jack Stapleton, who is a movie star, and he has a stalker. And his mom is going through some health things, so he goes to live on his family's ranch with his whole family and kind of like take care of his mom while she's going through these health issues. So he has to bring his bodyguard with her, who is Hannah. But he doesn't want his family to know that he needs a bodyguard, because he doesn't want them to worry. He wants to them to focus on his mom and her stuff. So he was like, can you pretend to be my girlfriend so my family doesn't know that I have a bodyguard? So it's fake dating. It's like, oh my god, there's just so many great things in this book. So yeah, you have the fake dating, you have the one bed trope, so many great tropes, forced proximity, so many amazing tropes in this book, and Catherine Center executed them so well. This book just puts a smile on your face. It's just a really fun time. In this book though, I am gonna warn you, if you like those spicy romances, there's absolutely no smut. She said in an interview, she was saying like, oh yeah, like my husband's a teacher, and his like middle schoolers might read my books, so like I keep them PG-13. So if you really care that much about having smut in your book, this doesn't have it, but you know what, who cares? Like, this was such a cute story. I love both the main characters so much. And there's like this one part in the book where like there's this big like barbecue thing happening, and his like celebrity girlfriend comes, and Hannah's there, and it's just like a whole thing, and the celebrity girlfriend's such a bitch. I was like I was literally dying at what was happening. I was like, oh my god, did that just happen? That just happened. Did he just say that? He just said that? She said that? Like, I was dying. I love this so much. It's so funny. Like, I read like so many different genres, but nothing ever gets me to react the way a romance book does. Like, the way I react to romance books, like, I'm like, holy shit, I can't believe that happened. Like, I never have that reaction with any other like type of books that I read. But yeah, highly recommend, 5 stars. The next book I read is The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory. I really enjoyed this book as well. I gave this book a 4-star rating. So you are following our 2 main characters. We have Alexa and Drew. So they meet in an elevator because they kind of get like trapped in an elevator together, and Alexa is there to visit her sister, and Drew is there for a wedding. And it's the wedding between his ex and his best friend. So when he RSVP'd to the wedding, he said he was gonna have a +1 because he wanted to didn't want to go to his ex's and best friend's wedding alone. So he said he had a +1. The wedding's coming up, he doesn't have a +1. He meets Alexa in the elevator, and they get along, and they're flirting, and he really likes her. So he's like, come to the wedding with me. So that's kind of where their relationship starts, and then it kind of goes from there. They end up having a long distance relationship, And I just really enjoyed this book a lot. I would say like the first 20% of it, I wasn't really into it. It was reading like a 3-star, but then like the last 80% of the book, I loved it so much. I read it on a 2-hour car ride. So I was listening to the audiobook while I was driving, and I was getting so invested into the story, and everything about it was just so, so cute. And I really liked that the conflict in this book wasn't about their long distance relationship, because they lived in like separate towns in California, which were like really far apart. I think it was like a 2-hour flight or something. I don't know. They were far apart. You had to fly to get to each other. So I liked, because I feel like if they had an issue over the distance, that's like too easy of a conflict, but that wasn't the conflict in this book. So that I really did enjoy that the distance wasn't an issue, but there still was obviously like issues, because you know, you can't just like have them meet and happily ever after the whole book. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I cannot wait to read more by Jasmine Guillory, because this one was a 4-star. The other book I read by her was a 3-star, and she has other books that are on my radar, so I want to read those and see if I really like her or not. The next book I read is The Hotel Nantucket by Elin Hilderbrand. This is my first Elin Hilderbrand book I've ever read. I absolutely loved it. I gave it 5 stars, and I cannot wait to read more by this author. So this is The Hotel Nantucket. This book is about a hotel, the Hotel Nantucket, and it is kind of like a historical hotel in this town of Nantucket, obviously. I was literally about to look in the flap, be like, wait, where's the town? So stupid. Nantucket. So it's kind of like this historical hotel there, but it's kind of run down, and there's rumors of it being haunted. So this billionaire, I don't know where he's from, but this billionaire comes and he buys the hotel sight unseen. He's never even been to the hotel. He goes in the book, but like before he buys it, never even been there. And he buys it, and he hires Elizabeth Keaton, that's our main character, to manage the hotel, hire all the staff. And her main goal for the hotel, his main goal for the hotel, is to get 5 keys. So there is this popular hotel blogger, and she basically goes to all these different hotels undercover and reviews them. And she only has ever given a hotel 4 keys. Like, that is the most. And this billionaire wants to be the one person with the one hotel that has gotten 5 keys, because that is like his... It's like a status thing. Like, he's a billionaire. He has so much money. He doesn't know what to do with himself. So he's like, let me buy this hotel, because I want to be the only person that has a 5-key hotel. So that is kind of what this book is about. And it's just about all the characters working in the hotel. There's also a ghost in this book, and you read it from the ghost perspective and about her thoughts on the hotel, and just everything about this book was amazing. And I learned reading this book that I really love the hotel setting. I read this book, and then I also read The Maid by Nita Prose, not this month, but a previous month, and that had a hotel setting. Absolutely loved it. So I really want to read more books with hotel settings. I think it's because it creates such interesting dynamics, because you have so many different departments. You know, you have like the maids, you have like the kitchen, you have front desk, you have the bellhops. Like, there's so many different like relationship dynamics and people, and then you have like the guests. I really do enjoy a hotel setting. This was amazing. Highly, highly recommend. 5 stars. The next book I read is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. Another 5-star read. This book was so good. Oh my god. And I think this book is actually becoming a series on Apple Plus, I believe, with Brie Larson being the star of the show, which is, you know, Captain Marvel. Like, how could you not want to watch it? Which is actually the real reason why I read this book. So I was like, oh, if I'm going to watch the show, I have to read the book first. And first of all, the cover is absolutely adorable. I really enjoyed this book. Like, I loved this book, and I really wasn't sure how I was going to feel about this book, because it's not my typical read. Like, I feel like a lot of these books I absolutely loved, like this one, they're not my typical reads, but yeah, I love them so, so, so much. So this book, you're following our main character. Her name is Elizabeth Zott, and she is a scientist in the early 1960s. So it's about her like navigating, like getting a job and working in the scientific, you know, world as a woman in the early 1960s, and dealing with the misogyny and the sexism and all that stuff. And you're basically just kind of following her throughout her life. And there's a dog in this book. Her dog, his name is 630. And I love the dog. He's my favorite character, because you actually read from the dog's perspective. And the dog doesn't die in the book, so don't worry, because I hate like doggy deaths. Like, no, absolutely not. I am going to give you a trigger warning for this book. There's a doggy death. No, just... I know. When I read the doggy death in this book, I was like, this cannot be a 5-star read, but then it was so good of a book, I kind of forgot about the doggy death. Anyway, so this one, there's a dog who's the main character, but he doesn't die, so you don't need to worry. But yeah, this book was just, I loved it. I really did love it, and I love the back of it. So there's the dog, there's 630, and then there's like the paddles, because she's really into rowing, and then obviously like the little scientist thing. Just everything about it was so, so good. I highly recommend. If it's out of your comfort zone, read it. Read it, read it, read it. You're gonna love it. The next book I read is My Killer Vacation by Tessa Bailey. This is my first Tessa Bailey book I ever read, and honestly, I gave it 3 stars. And I was so excited to read my first Tessa Bailey books. Everybody loves her, and I love her TikTok, so I was super excited to read this, but like, I didn't really love it. Like, it was a 3-star read. So I just felt like there wasn't much plot to this book. It was really just them having sex, and which is great, but like I wanted more of the plot, and this should have been like a 5-star read for me because it's romance and mystery, which are like my 2 most read genres for the year. So it's like this should be like a 5-star read because it's everything I love in one book, but it just wasn't. Like, I think because of the relationship, I didn't really believe in their relationship because they just saw each other and they basically were just so in love just from seeing each other, and not even in love. They were in lust. Like, they had such a, like, the sexual attraction, like, all book. Like, all they wanted to do in this book is have sex. Like, at one point they have sex in a church. And it's just like, okay, there's like no build-up of the relationship. It's just having sex. Like, how can you be in love and it's like overtaken over a couple day period, and then they like fall in love and like all this stuff? And plus, like, the dude in this book is kind of creepy. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like, he's so protective, but like in a weird way. Like, she's like barefoot on like the asphalt or something, like on the street, and he's like, oh my god, like, why shouldn't she wear shoes? Like, her feet are gonna hurt. And it's like, I love protective boyfriend trope, but like, it's too much. Like, it was too much of a protective boyfriend trope. It was just weird, okay? It was 3 stars. Like, I enjoyed it, but like, I also find a lot wrong with it too. So I'll still read other books by her, but this wasn't it for me. So hopefully the other ones are better. The next book I read is The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. So this book is a cozy mystery novel, and it is with senior citizens, which I think is so much fun. So we have our 4 main characters. We have these, I don't remember all their names, but we have 4 senior citizens, and they are living in a community, like a retirement village, and they meet together on Thursdays to solve cold cases and true crime cases, and they call themselves the Thursday Murder Club. So at their retirement village, the developer for the village ends up being murdered. So they are on the case and they want to solve what happened to this guy, and it's just so hilarious. It's such a good time. It's just it's the perfect cozy mystery. I really enjoyed this book so much. Can't wait to read the next book, and then they're coming out with a 3rd book. So hopefully it just continues the series forever, because I love it. And I think this is the first book that this guy's ever read. I think he's done other things that have made him well known, but this is the first book he's like written, and it was just so good. And this is actually turning into a movie, and it's directed by Steven Spielberg. I read that on the internet and I was like, oh, holy shit, this is amazing. It's gonna be such a good movie, because this book, it reads like it would be a good movie. So very excited. I highly recommend reading this before the movie comes out. It's such a fun time. If you love cozy mysteries, I think you'll really like this book. The next book I read is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. This book, I don't have the physical copy because I read it through my library. And oh my god, this book was amazing. I listened to this audiobook in one day, which this book is over 400 pages. So like, I'm very surprised that I could finish the whole audiobook in one day, but I like did not. I was honestly so productive that day too, because like I was just working and cleaning, because I didn't want to take my earphones out, like, because I always have to be doing something while listening to an audiobook, and I didn't want my like listening experience to end, so I kept like doing other things. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll mop the floors now. Oh, okay, I guess I'll like list more items on Poshmark now. Or, oh, I guess I'll like wash the windows now, because like I just did not want to stop listening to it. So we have our 2 main characters in this book, Alexis and Daniel. So Alexis is kind of like this doctor who lives in like a big city, and Daniel runs like a bed and breakfast in this small town. And they meet because she's driving through this small town and something happens to her car, and he has to like pull her out of a ditch or something with her tire. I don't remember. And that's how they meet. And they kind of start up a romance, and she's just thinking the whole time, like, this is just like an easy romance. Like, I don't really see this going anywhere. She's also getting out of a abusive relationship, an emotionally abusive relationship. And one of the people that she meets in a small town, one of Daniel's acquaintances, like one of the girls that he knows, is in a relationship that's also like physically and verbally abusive. So definitely trigger warnings for those things. But it was really a beautiful romance story. This was not like a light, fluffy rom-com romance. It was more deep than that, and I loved it so much. I'm always really hesitant when things have trigger warnings on it, talking about like abuse and sexual assault and things like that, because I really don't like to read about those things. But this one, I read it anyway, and I think the author handled everything really well. It was a really beautiful story. I loved their love story, and highly recommend, 5 stars. The next book I read is Counterfeit by Kristen Chen. So this book, I forgot our 2 main characters' names already, which is weird because I read this at the end of the month, but I read this in one day. I listened to the audiobook. I don't have it physically. This book. So basically this girl, she's like a housewife or something, or she was working, and then when they have the baby, she stopped working. So she kind of wanted something to do with her time. So she reconnects with one of her old friends, and her friend runs a counterfeit bag business, like fake luxury handbags. So they kind of get involved in this business and buying and selling fake luxury goods. That is what the story is about. It's not like, it was kind of boring. It's just like, okay, like whatever, like nothing spectacular happens, nothing horrible happens. It's just like, okay, like this is a good time, I guess, but like I'm happy I listened to it on audio and didn't waste my money on like a physical copy for my shelves, because like it's very forgettable. And it's so funny because this is, a lot of famous book clubs are picking this as their pick, and it's like, there's nothing special about it. Again, very forgettable, 3 stars. The next book I read is Faith Taking Flight by Julie Murphy. This is a YA book following Faith, and she has the ability to fly. And Faith also has a favorite show called The Grove. The Grove moves their production to Faith's small town and starts filming there. So Faith meets one of the actresses on the show, and they kind of start like a little romance fling. But then there's also all this weird stuff going on in the town when the show arrives. Like all these like dogs are going missing and people are going missing, and there's something going on. So that's basically the premise of the book. I didn't really care for this. I gave it 3 stars. I read this book because I've talked about this in my August TBR, but basically I bought a bunch of YA books. I went into a reading slump, and then when I got out of my reading slump, I was only reading adult books. So now I have all these unread YA books on my shelf that I'm just trying to go through, so it's not like I wasted my money. This is one of them. It was a 3-star read. Honestly, I feel like I feel like it reads younger than a YA too. I felt like it kind of felt like a middle grade in a way, but maybe that's just because I'm 24 reading this book, and maybe it really is reading like an actual YA. I don't really know, but if I was like 14 reading this book, I feel like I would have loved it. 10 years later, me at 24 doesn't really care for it. So in this book, you're following our main character, Samantha, and she is in this really small class with these girls who are in a group, and they call themselves the Bunnies, and they're very like cult-like. You definitely get those cult vibes from them because they all like talk in very high-pitched voices. They all call each other Bunny, and it's just like weird. And then they have this thing called a smut salon where they all go hang out, and they call it smut salon. And one day they invite Samantha to be part of their smut salon. Samantha goes, and then she gets kind of into the world of the Bunnies and becomes part of their group. And I really can't say more about it from there because then it starts to get spoilery, and I don't want to spoil this book for anybody. But it was a really amazing book. I highly recommend it. I really read it because I love Katie Coulson. Like, I love her book channel, and she loves this book so much, and she hypes it up so much, and she has like this way of talking about books where you like want to read everything she reads. Like, even if she reads something bad, like the way she describes books is like, oh shit, I have to read that. But she really likes this one. So I read it, gave it 5 stars. Really amazing. I listened to it on audio, and then I immediately went out and bought the physical copy because I wanted to reread it and tab it. I haven't finished my tabbing like journey of this because I've been kind of reading it like throughout other books, but yeah, I wanted to read it for a second time because I feel like this is one of those books like you have to read it 2 times. Like the first time to really get the information, and then you have to go on like Reddit and YouTube and read all these people's conspiracy theories about what actually happens in the book. Then you have to go back and reread the book, and then it's like you read it. You know what I mean? It's like you have to read it 2 times to just like say that you like understand the book. So yeah, really highly recommend this book, and I love like the little like pink axes that are like lining that page. It's so cute. So yes, this one I also gave 5 stars too. The next book I read is The House Across Lake by Riley Sager. This is the first Riley Sager book I've ever read. I'm actually in the process of filming a video of reading all of Riley Sager's books and like rating them. So this is the one I started with because it was his latest release, and I love this book so much. We're following our main character. Her name is Casey, and she is an alcoholic. She's an unreliable narrator, and she lives in this lake house. She's like an ex-actress because she got really drunk at one of her performances and got fired. So she's like shamed, and she's living in this house, and she's also grieving her dead husband. So across the lake, we have a tech guy and an ex-supermodel living there. And Casey has been spying on them with her binoculars. And then one day she saves the model from drowning in the lake, which happens very early in the beginning of the book, so it's not a spoiler. She's drowning in the lake, and that's how she meets the ex-supermodel, and they become friends. So she starts spying on their house with her binoculars and realizes they don't really have a happy marriage and that they are fighting a lot. And then one day her friend goes missing, and she is like, I think the husband did it. And it's just basically about that. So I know this is like, this whole premise in this trope is very like women in the window, girl on the train type of vibes. I never read those books. I did see the movie Girl on the Train. I never read the books though. So I know a lot of people who have read those books don't necessarily like love this because it's like an overdone trope. But for me, this is like the first time I've read this trope. So I ate this shit up. And the ending is so chaotic and there's so many twists, and like they're out of nowhere. Like you don't see them coming and there's no foreshadowing for them. And I've seen some people say that as a complaint, but like I loved that. Like surprise me. I don't want foreshadowing. Like just like throw it in there and I'm gonna be like, what the fuck? Because that was literally my reaction. I was like, what the fuck? Like what is happening? But I loved it so much. I rated it 5 stars. The next book I read is Youngblood by Sasha Lawrence. So the way this book was pitched to me, and I don't know if it was pitched to me this way, I just thought it was this way, is lesbian vampires in a boarding school. And I was like, wow, that sounds amazing. I want to read that because I am on a vampire kick right now. I am binge watching Vampire Diaries. I want to read all these vampire books. Like I'm on a vampire kick, okay? So I read this book. Oh my god, no. This I rated 3 stars. It wasn't that great. I'm like, is YA just not for me? Or like, am I just reading like a bunch of like meh YA books recently? I did not like this book at all. First of all, lesbian vampire boarding school, no, that's like not it at all. Like one of the girls is lesbian, this girl here, and then like our main character they end up like in a relationship together, but she doesn't start out as a lesbian, which is fine. Like she's discovering herself, she's in high school. But like the whole vampire, like vampiredom is very conservative and like homophobic. Like I don't want to read this book for like homophobia and like all this other conservative shit. Like no. I want this to be like a fun time, not like an annoying time. I don't want to think about conservatives while reading this book. And like the author who wrote this book, it says on the back, has a PhD in political science. And you can definitely tell while reading this book, because I feel like she's trying to send a message, but like through this book, but it feels very forced. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, like a very well done like hidden message in the book. It's like in your face. It's so overt. Our main character is super woke, and it's like I agree with everything she's saying, but I just like don't like how she's going about it, and it's so in your face and forced. But like that's just how I feel about the book. It just feels forced. It's also very predictable. Like she has this our main character has this anonymous like donor who basically pays for her education there. Surprise, surprise, who it is. Like it was like the most obvious person there. And yeah, I just didn't really like this book. I really hated how conservative the vampires were. It just wasn't a good time. I don't want to read that. I read this for escapism. I don't want to see like conservative backwards bullshit in my books. Like no. I want to like read like just a fun lesbian vampire story in a boarding school, not a homophobic story. Like no thank you. So yeah, I rated this 3 stars. It was okay. The next book I read and the last book I read for the month is Booked on a Feeling by J.C. Lee. First of all, I just wanted to read this because of the cover. Look how freaking gorgeous. And this cover is not gorgeous, but it's cute. It's adorable. It's everything. I want to buy the physical copy so I can have it on my shelf. I listened to this through my library. So this one is a rom-com book. You're following Lizzie and Jack. So it's a friends to lovers book. Basically, the way I would pitch this story to you is if you liked Book Lovers by Emily Henry, this is friends to lovers version of Book Lovers. That's like the best way I can describe it. So we have Lizzie. She is a lawyer. She lives in a big city. I think she lives in Los Angeles. And she's a lawyer. She just won a trial case and she's trying to become partner. So after she wins the trial case, she has a panic attack, and her friend Jack actually came to watch her win the case, and he kind of helps her through it. So you can kind of see already like how much he cares about her, and he's like secretly in love with her. And because she has this panic attack, she's like, okay, I really just need to go like recharge. Like I feel overwhelmed, I feel stressed, I feel burnt out from being a lawyer. So she moves to Jack's hometown for 3 weeks. I don't know if that's, yeah, I think it is his hometown. I was gonna say small town, hometown, small town, same thing. Okay, so they go to his small town hometown for 3 weeks so she can kind of like decompress and live there. And he is so excited because he's like, oh my god, I'm gonna spend every day with her. I'm secretly in love with her. This is gonna be great. I get her for 3 weeks. Okay, while she's there, he is secretly going to where she lives in LA to apply for a job so that he could be closer to her while she's spending time in his small town and falling in love with it. So we can already see the conflict that is going to be happening there, but it was so cute. I love this book so much. It was so cute. It was such a good time. I definitely want to check out more by this author. I'm definitely going to spend my money on the physical copy, even though I already read it, and I probably won't reread it because that cover. And also, it's just such a cute story. Like, I need it on my shelf, so when if someone comes over and they're like, oh, like, can I borrow one of your books? I'll be like, this one. It's cute. It's a good time. It's going to make you smile. Read it. Highly recommend. I would, and also this is on, this one I read through Hoopla. So I like when things are on Hoopla because then you don't have to like wait. Like, you could just borrow them instantly. Like, you don't have to be on a waiting list or whatever. It's just like borrow instantly. So if you have Hoopla through your library, I would definitely check out this audiobook. Those are all the books I read in the month of July. I had a really amazing reading month. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to like and subscribe and comment down below. And I will see you guys in the next video, maybe with my Riley Sager video, maybe with a different video. We shall see. But I'll see you guys in the next one.